Nat, I'll get us started, okay?
Said that awards don't mean that much to you, and you're a two-time MVP frontrunner for a third MVP. Were you a bit surprised to go number 7 in the draft?
No, I will not draft myself either. I'm not meant for this game.
Also rather appropriate that Nikola Jokic had to wait to get drafted, given that he was famously or infamously drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. So there's that part. Hi, Natalie. How are you? You look wonderful. Good to see you again.
Oh, thank you. I'm well. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm great. I want to talk to our audience right now. I'm going to talk about Natalie now, like she's not here right now. See, y'all got Natalie effed up, all right? Because, see, Natalie, you see her with this smile, this pleasant voice, this calm demeanor. And y'all don't know this New York Jamaican like I've come to know this New York Jamaican over the course of these last few months, right? So Natalie and I talk all the time, you know, and most of the time we're talking about like show business or what have you. Every now and then, you know, it'll just evolve or devolve, as the case may be, into some kind of debate. And I've been debating for a long time, right? Think I'm pretty decent at it. I didn't know that I would meet my match in the form of this attorney, which makes sense that an attorney could out-argue me. And so one night, I don't know how we got on this topic, because y'all have seen her lose her shit before. She lost it talking about Kevin Durant's shoe size. That was her coming out party on the show. So one night we talking, and we got to talking about my man, my guy, Nikola Jokic. This is how it all comes full circle. We're talking about Nikola Jokic. And we got to talk about him winning a third straight MVP. And I had to take out my AirPods and hold the phone over here, because I'm like, who hurt you? Like, what did he do to you? And seriously, watch this. So Natalie, back to you. ESPN recently did a straw poll of 100 MVP voters. And I believe the number is 77 out of 100 have Nikola Jokic as their front runner to win the Kia NBA MVP award.
Yeah.
And there's 23 games left, and so it doesn't seem like it's close at this point.
No.
So we are 23 games away from Nikola Jokic doing something that hasn't been done in nearly 40 years, last by Larry Bird. And the only other people to take home 3 regular season MVP awards are the aforementioned Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell. The dude whose name is now adorning the trophy. Never won 3 straight MVPs.
Yeah.
So with that, Natalie, how do you feel about this? How does this make you feel?
I mean, everyone knows how I feel. It's absurdity, you know? And let me just say for the record, Jokic is my guy too. Like, people may not believe that. This is why I hate when I feel strongly about something, because the passion comes out of me, and from that people draw, oh, she doesn't like him. So now I'm getting called all kinds of names, by the way, which is fine. Not by you, but like I'm just saying Twitter,
really?
people.
Oh, wait, hold on. All jokes aside, really?
Of course, because anytime you say something that people
A
don't
woman.
agree. Yes.
Or a woman, you know, and
You're-
a black woman.
yes,
having
and
an
your
opinion in
yes.
sports. No, you know what? I'm messing with you, but I'm sorry. I didn't know they got that serious. See, I told you, I'm
No,
off social media.
it's
I didn't know they got
okay.
that serious. Okay.
No, it's but when I say it's okay, it's just unfortunately what comes with the territory. So I have ways to like ignore that and, you know, not have it reach me. But, you know, I feel strongly about it. And there's other things I felt strongly about where I personally am against, but maybe I defend a position, because that's the lawyer in me. I'm able to defend a position even if I don't necessarily support it. And people are like, oh, you know, they call you names, whatever the case may be. So I actually really am a fan of Jokic. And it's so funny because I turned people into Jokic fans. When people were trying to tell me 80 was still better than Jokic, I was like, you guys are crazy, right? But it's just, I don't, you know, if you just look at the MVP award on an individual season basis, of course, he has a strong argument every year, as do several other players, right? But there becomes a time, and some don't agree with this, so I guess it's the philosophy on how you view the MVP. But you start to look at it collectively over time in terms of when someone starts to receive multiple or they're receiving back-to-back. And I personally find it to be an issue that Jokic will be receiving his third MVP most likely. And I knew he would be leading the race. I was a little shocked when I saw the Stroud poll, because that Stroud poll indicated that he's clear. Like that he's clear of everyone.
Right.
And
head and shoulders.
And I didn't expect that. That was a bit much to me. But in general, to win 3 MVPs in a row, to me, tells a story. Like if a historian is looking back on this and looking at history, that to me is telling a story that he dominated the league during these 3 years. He was head and shoulders above all the other players. And I mean, that's just not the case. It's just not the case. It's incorrect. So, and there's also whether.
Is it though?
It is. It's not correct. So here's the thing. Having the best advanced metrics, and I'm a fan of analytics, so let's make that clear. I don't dislike them. But having the best analytics, best advanced metrics, doesn't mean that you were the most valuable. And in the prior 2 years when he won his award, a large part of the underlying argument, his play on the court was phenomenal. He's a phenomenal player. But a large part of the narrative, the argument was about how much he was doing when you look at his teammates. He dragged them. He did this, he did. Yeah. Exactly. And in my opinion, that penalizes the players who have better teammates, because it suggests that he's doing more than them. But if you take any of those guys, Embiid, Tatum, whoever, if you take them off their teams, how much better are they going to do? Newsflash, you do not do well without your best player. So it penalizes those guys. Now, this season, he has his teammates. And they're like, yeah, look at what he's doing. And let's award him another one. So they penalized the guys before who had the help and said, you can't get it because he's doing more with less. Now he has the help, and they're still like, okay, we're going to give it to you. And it is a departure. For whatever reason, it is a departure from the way the media has treated other players who have won consecutive MVPs. And I just think it's odd.
So the last person to have a chance to do this was Giannis, and he didn't win a third. I hear you. And
LeBron.
I do not appreciate. Well, right, but I'm saying this the last.
Oh, the very last person. Yep.
The very last person that was back to back going for a third, and obviously didn't do it. But LeBron had, I think, 2 opportunities to go 3 for 3, as did Jordan, if my memory serves. First of all, I just want to say I do not appreciate you putting on your courtroom voice here. And because that's not how you said it on the phone.
Well, we were riled up that day.
You said it to me.
We were riled up that day. And you're not telling them the full story, because you were like, no, that's not correct. That's not what was done in the past. And I was like, no, it's absolutely, like, this is what happened.
I don't talk like that.
I'm just saying. I'm paraphrasing you. You may have not said it like that, but you were like telling me like, no, this is not right. And I just strongly disagreed with you in that conversation.
Because you were suggesting that we rewrote rules around Russell Westbrook. Say that 3 times fast. You were suggesting that we rewrote rules around Russell Westbrook. That, oh, he was the first person to have this more with less argument. No, the more with less argument has been around since the beginning of time. But you make a good point about penalizing other great players just because their organizations put better teams around them, or they had better health fortune, or didn't have the same health misfortune, or what have you. So that's a sound argument, and you make a lot of solid points. I guess where my issue with it is I don't know that it's the regular season MVP, and this is what we were talking about. Like, if you want to give it to the person who is the unofficial or the recognized best player, then 3-4 dudes would have won it throughout NBA history for the most part. You know what I'm saying? It'd have been a lot of LeBron, it'd have been a lot of Jordan, it'd have been a lot of Kareem, a lot more, I should say. A lot of Wilt, a lot of Russell, Bird, Magic, maybe they'd have split it, I don't know. But nobody else would win it if it were about the person standing at the end of the season with the trophy or trophies that matter, right? I don't know that you could look at somebody with the #1 record in the Western Conference that's averaging a triple-double from the center position and say, oh, he can't win the award this year because you can't give him 3 straight. I don't care about the last 2. Who's the MVP in 2022-23? And if it happens to be the same dude that was MVP in 2021-22 and 2021, so be it. Nobody's giving Nikola Jokic anything. He is taking it. And it's so funny. I feel like you're talking about dying on that MVP hill. You're talking about dying on that MVP hill. I feel like I've been beating this drum for the last 3 years. We've been trying to, see, you and I must roll in different circles. Because whereas you think people are breaking their back and bending over backwards to give, I think every year people try not to give this dude the award.
They do. That's the thing. This is a very multi-layered topic because I even think, if I remember correctly, that I made a comment on this show. This is like before I was even working here, that like part of the push against him is because he's white. Like that's a part of it and international. So it's in those.
Are we still on that? Are we really still on that?
Not now, but some of the anti him is a part of that. And so in his first MVP case, right? I do think there was a lot of that. And then the second one, I think people got more comfortable. But I actually didn't think that he should have won last year. And this year, I also don't think that he's clear of everyone. So the way that everyone speaks and makes this argument like it's just him, the Celtics have had the best record in the NBA, not just their conference, in the NBA for the whole season. Jason Tatum is not even in the top 3. He finished 4th with like a couple of votes. You know, and then it's like, what are Giannis and Embiid having pedestrian seasons? They are not.
Or Luka, for that matter.
Yeah,
okay.
like the way these cases are being made.
Here.
Yes, the way
these
exactly, and that's why I'm saying they have decided. First of all, in my opinion, the media picks a narrative pretty early that they like. I do.
Who is they? Who is they? You can't say they no more.
People, yes, I am
voters.
No, let me say voters. MVP voters. I am not a voter.
You're one of us.
I am not a voter.
You're one of us now.
Okay.
You're one of us.
But I'm not a voter. And MVP voters, they love the rush triple-double thing, and they love the idea of like someone getting 3 in a row.
Since Oscar.
Okay, but that was also a departure, whether you want to agree or not. It was a departure.
What was a departure?
When Russ won that, it was a departure from typically a person winning MVP on a higher seeded team. I am not the only one who says this. Yes, and not even winning 50 games. That was a departure. And so when we were talking about the Russ thing that night on the phone,
averaged a triple double.
I don't care because there were also.
And I know that's nothing now, but then I mean, come on.
I don't care because they were caught up in that versus the other great players who were MVP candidates who were not a departure. It became about the triple double. Just like right now, it feels like they're like, yeah, we like this idea of someone getting 3 in a row, so they're gonna make the case fit around them. No one says that. No, so I'm not saying. So by the way, but I'm not saying that he's not qualified.
There we go.
I'm not saying because it sounds like I'm saying he's not deserving. If you just look at his season, of course he is deserving. But
okay, we got
they
you. We got
they love that it would be a 3rd time MVP and it hasn't been done in a while. And I feel like
somebody write this.
But I feel like they're not going to
feel this way.
I talk to people. No, I'm not guessing. I'm not guessing.
You got sources.
And
who do you talk to that would like to give him a 3rd MVP because they feel like it, because they're nice?
No, I'm not saying they just feel like it. I'm saying like that's the narrative that appeals to most. But of course, he has the season and the stats to back it up. Like he's an incredible player.
He only has the season.
Yeah,
and
so
the stats,
I'm not.
Right.
Listen, you can do that all you want, but it is a legitimate thing. And you're not going to make me out to be a crazy person because it is.
I just want you to go crazy.
It's a regular topic. It is a thing. And, you know, like, salute to Jokic. But I think it's personally crazy, whether you think we should factor in postseason or not, for someone to be getting his potentially 3rd MVP and does not yet have a finals appearance. And maybe he will. Maybe this will be the change, but I don't think it will be. So we'll see.
Well, first of all, I'm just enjoying getting under your skin, and a little bit of the New York is coming out little by little. So I don't even really. I mean, look. I got a horse. I have a horse in this, but I don't have a dog in this fight. But I'm just enjoying trolling you.
Why? Why is this a thing?
But wait a second. But no. But like then you're bringing up postseason. First of all, I have a hard time believing, and if you've talked to MVP voters and they've said to you, you know what, I like the idea of a third straight. I like somebody making history. This is a good story. I'm going to vote for this story or this narrative, as we want to call it. Then that's fair. I'm not going to question your sources. I find it hard to believe, though, that the people who are voting for this MVP award are voting with the last 2 years in mind. I think if they're voting for Nikola Jokic, they're voting for him because it is undeniable. And in fact, I would venture to say that him winning a third straight, because the phrase we have yet to bring up in this entire conversation, which always comes up, is voter fatigue. I would venture to say that the last two work more against his candidacy than they do for him. I would say that there are more people that are tired of seeing him be an MVP than people who want to see him win 3 straight.
Clearly not. And I'm glad
he's just that great.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. No, like he is that great, but he's not that greater than all the other candidates. I feel like the story and making that history is making them overlook the other quality candidates in the race. That's what I'm saying. And
so who's your MVP? Tatum?
And hold on. One more thing I just want to point out, because you made an excellent point where you say, the voter fatigue. At the beginning of past seasons, like with Giannis, the last one, we heard voters, people go on TV, and we just knew that he was not getting that third MVP because they had the voter fatigue. And it was sort of set at the outset of the season. And when I say Jokic is being treated differently, it's because of that, because we didn't hear those same kind of things we heard with LeBron, with Jokic, with Steph. When Kevin Durant joined, it was like, oh, no. You can't get a third because this reason. It was set at the beginning of the season. With him, that wasn't said. And then he just had the open lane to get a third MVP. So when I say he's being treated differently, those are the things that I mean by he's being treated differently than past candidates. And yes, there were people who would go on TV and say things like that. You're not going to get me to call out names right here like that now.
No, I'm not looking for names.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for names. And listen, I told you got to guard your ear gates and eye gates from stupidity, although we may address some of it later on in the show. But no, it's like, I guess maybe I'm not in these Twitter streets the way you are, or maybe I'm not listening to certain people because I don't
not
really
just
care
Twitter. I'm talking about media and voters as well.
Well, I mean, but media and voters are on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
I'm saying not just NBA Twitter, but just basketball community in general that I know you're entrenched in. I'm saying if somebody says something that makes it feels like there's a double standard at play or there's different rules at play for Nikola Jokic, I think, you know what I think it is? I think he's got incredible stats on the best team in the Western Conference. And a lot of people have been hurt this year. Your man Steph, Kevin Durant, a lot of people have missed quite a bit of time who otherwise would have potentially challenged him. But like I was asking you a second ago, and I get the nuance, I get the overall nuance, all jokes aside, all trolling aside, I get the overall nuance of your point, which is that he's deserving, but he's not so deserving that he's far and away the runaway favorite versus everybody else in the league. That's where your frustration comes in, along with what you perceive to be a different set of standards being set for this two-time MVP as opposed to others. I disagree, but I hear your point. Having said all that, if you were voting right now, who are you voting for? And you better not say Jokic.
No, I wouldn't. But to me, and I've already said earlier on the show that Tatum to me, in the beginning of the season would have been the front runner. But I do think Giannis just got hurt, but we'll see. But I do think that Giannis has come on really strong in the second part of the season, and Embiid. And to me, I would just need to watch the season play out a little bit more. But any one of those three probably would be the player getting my vote.
All right, so before we wrap this up, and maybe this is the conversation we should save so we don't go too much longer here. But just the postseason thing. I don't care whether or not he sniffed the NBA Finals.
Okay.
This ain't a playoff award. But Natalie, okay, you can care about it, but what I have a problem with, here's what I have a problem. I'm going to give you a vote for purposes of this conversation.
Okay.
Here's what I have a problem with, a mythical vote. My problem is that you think the postseason should matter. It doesn't, and now you want to apply that standard to the application of this vote.
No, I think the postseason has always mattered. You don't think that it has, and I'm saying it has.
To who? To whom? Voters?
Yes.
You can't project the postseason. You can't
But
make
they
a, you
do,
can't make
and
a
they
determination
have.
about the when. For example, when. You mentioned Russ. For example, when have they given an award
There are
to somebody in the
voters
regular
who-
season
there are
based on
voters-
what they think they're going to do in the
There are
postseason?
voters who have said that they do not vote for players do not have a likelihood to contend, who have won less than 50 games. That's not even someone that they would consider. And then even like, you know what? Dirk is a really great example in the past. Like when he had won that
When
MVP.
he lost to the Warriors
right.
in the first round?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then he lost, and then that post-conference was later. It was a very awkward thing because part of the reason in that post-conference, the awarding of him winning the award, part of the reason why it was later in the postseason is because there's an expectation that the MVP is going to be playing deeper in the postseason.
Well, Giannis got his first one from Greece, did he not? What if I recall? I think it was. I
Yes,
think
and
he
that
got
was
the first
part,
one on
and
TV
that
from
was
Greece.
part of the reason why people were like, we're not giving him a third MVP because he did 2 years, got MVPs, and he was out of the postseason very early. It's inherent, whether they do it on the front end or the back end. People take it into consideration, Mike. I'm telling you, they do.
Well, if they actually do, they should be stripped of their vote. It's a regular season award. And it's a regular season award. And there's a difference. Now, maybe we're saying the same thing, but differently. There's a difference between a top 2, maybe 3 seed in your conference and what you think they're going to do in the postseason. That's 2 different things.
Okay.
Now, usually those things go hand in hand. So if you're saying somebody that's one fewer than 50 games, that's a 6th, 7th, or 8th seed, or even a 5th seed, that's not a top 4 seed, should not be an MVP consideration, that has traditionally been the benchmark.
Yes.
But the way that you're saying it is, well, he ain't gonna do shit in the postseason, so I'm not giving him the MVP for the regular season. That don't feel right to me. Okay. That doesn't feel right. Like it's like if you want to be a postseason award, then let it be an all-encompassing award.
This is a
like
debate
I said,
every year. Like in terms of regular season, postseason, but
nowhere.
Okay.
It goes nowhere because it's a regular season award, and we got to live with that. And this regular season, Jokic, his team has the best record in the West.
In the West.
So if you were gonna in the West, yeah, exactly, and the numbers. So there's a stronger argument this year than there even was in previous years.
This year
for
makes
him.
the most sense of his 3, but I supported the first, and I support this one. I did not support last year.
Okay. Well, way to keep your composure. I expected another F-bomb from you. I had a side bet that it was gonna be an F-bomb. We can go to break. I had a side bet there was gonna be an F-bomb out of this. I was like, no, you think she lost it about Kevin Durant's shoe size? Wait till we talk about this Serbian.
I was prepared.
You know?
I prepared for you today. I saw your feed. I knew what you was trying to do.
You got these people fooled. You be code switching. You got the corporate voice, corporate presentation, then you come online cussing and whatnot. NFL.com's lead draft writer. Is it officially? Is it NFL.com or NFL Media? How should I say that?
I think. Yeah, I've been told NFL Media. I don't think you get scolded if you say the other ones. It's fine.
Okay.
But
just want to be respectful. NFL Media's lead draft writer Eric Edholm is here with us. So I want to go inside this Carr process, and I can't resist. Which team wants a used car? But see, David Carr talking about Derek taking his time here, and I respect it. I mean, this is a huge life event, as they say in human resources, Natalie, life-changing event, whatever. You know, he's moving to a different place for the first time. He's probably still processing his release from the Raiders and how things fell apart. I get taking your time, wanting to make sure you set up the right situation. But those are 2 teams that have a clear need at quarterback and can be in contention with the quarterback. There's another quarterback, a certain quarterback who's still in a dark place, I guess. And I don't know if we've seen smoke, if he's come out if he knows what he's going to do. But like if you're Derek Carr, this should be the opposite of a long process, should it not? Shouldn't you do this expeditiously and pick one of these teams so that you have your pick of teams and you don't have to compete with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, you have the chance to be the first domino, if you will, for Derek Carr. And it's going to be a fascinating quarterback landscape this entire offseason, as you mentioned. I mean, kind of the Rodgers, is there another veteran that's let go? We don't know. You have 4-ish draft prospects who could be first rounders who, are part of the equation farther down the line. But yeah, part of the beauty of him opting out or, getting released essentially is the ability to pick first, right? And firing that first shot. You get to land in a place that you choose, obviously, but also it prevents another team from getting excited about the possibility of somebody else joining them.
And you mentioned the 4/5. I mean, I guess you could throw Carolina in there potentially. You could throw Indianapolis in there if they want to continue to go the retread quarterback route. If you were advising Derek Carr, what would you tell him? Like, hey man, stop messing around. This is the team, and this is the situation for you.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm his agent, I'm thinking money, right? I mean, obviously that's going to be a big factor, but you never want to sign a contract for a little bit more money that may end up being a dead end situation or somewhere that could, significantly hinder your progress or anything. I mean, Derek's probably on the back 9 of his career. I think obviously had a good run in Oakland/Las Vegas, but it's important for him to land a really good spot. And the Jets offer a lot of appeal. I mean, defensively, they're coming off, first of all, a great draft for both sides of the ball, but offensively, they have almost everything besides the quarterback. You could argue tackles the need. Maybe they need to refine tight end a little bit, get some more depth in the backfield. But goodness, I mean, I can't think of too many spots offensively that are more appealing right now. The Saints are a little bit of an unknown.
I would say the Saints, and that's not my New Orleans roots, and that's not because it's Mardi Gras. But right. I mean, honestly, I think just knowing that town, knowing that community, knowing that fan base, it's like, ironically, he doesn't have to be the Saints' savior the way New York would need him to be.
Good point.
I mean, listen, Derek has been through a lot. I know there are statistics to support the lack of support that he received all those years with the Raiders on defense and special teams. I'm not saying that, he couldn't handle New York. I mean, who's to say we've never seen him in New York? But New Orleans, there's such a different type of love affair. Don't mistake it. There's passion there. And that fan base can be harsh. But I think they would embrace him in the way that he needs to be embraced right now, in a different way than I think New York might. They got a good veteran defense. They've got a young stud wide receiver or wide receivers. We'll see about what happens with Kamara. Obviously, there's a Dennis Allen familiarity. So, Natalie, I go to New Orleans. Hell, I don't know how they got it. He must not have had the right gumbo, because I have no idea how they left New Orleans in the first place without signing a deal, Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, New Yorkers get such a bad rap, huh?
That's not what I meant.
I think a fan base like the Jets would actually really embrace him, but both seem like really great destinations. I'm curious, Eric, it sounded like you were about to say like the Saints could be a fit, but do you, like, if you had to pick, or like Mike said, if you were advising him, is it the Jets? Is that where you think he should go?
Mike makes great points about the Saints and their fan base, and how they can wrap their arms around a quarterback. Drew Brees is the obvious example. I mean, I think in 2006 when Brees went there, Saints fans were just excited that someone chose them.
Somebody
right? I mean,
that
for a
That's
long
exactly
time.
Right.
They were just ignored, and it was a bit of a lucky thing, right? But this would be a different situation, I think, obviously, but because the Saints have had sustained success for the last 15 plus years, but they're obviously in a spot right now where, they paid for having Brees on the roster, and now they're going to have to keep kicking the can down the road and make tough decisions on Michael Thomas and, whoever else. They've already started restructuring guys like Eric McCoy. But yeah, if they can find a way to come up with an offer that's competitive, I think it would be fantastic to see him with, Olave and the, at least the parts of a good offensive line plus Kamara, before we know what his potential discipline might be after the legal trouble.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this. I know that he would have more responsibility on the Jets, but do you think he's capable of taking that on and succeeding?
Yeah, the Jets would really be a fascinating situation. I mean, I think, obviously the defense has really taken strides, and Robert Salah has done a nice job putting this team together. They just added Nathaniel Hackett, too, as offensive coordinator. I realize that, there are some Carr ties there as well. His quarterback coach, for instance, worked with him in Oakland, Todd Downing. But, Hackett, even after the last season when he was Broncos head coach and it was a, abject failure, still respected as an offensive guy and still considered one of the close allies of Aaron Rodgers. It really is going to come down to, are there enough people in the building who can support bringing on Rodgers for arguably more money and obviously some kind of compensation as well. It will be fascinating. Carr has to be considered a possibility there, but when you hear his brother saying, hey, we're going to slow down and take our time on this, you wonder, is he their first choice, or are the Jets his first choice?
So speaking of choices, today is the first day that teams can play tag, and let me tell you, the non-exclusive tag ain't it.
Right.
The non-exclusive tag ain't it when it comes to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, because I'm not letting nobody in my business. That relationship, and Natalie dug up some posts that Lamar has since deleted. Would you say, Natalie? Nothing's ever deleted. But listen, that relationship is difficult enough. It's in a tough enough place without inviting somebody else to come in and poison it any further, if it is poison at this point. And so if I'm the Ravens, it's like, nah, man, you're playing for us. We'll continue to try to get a long-term deal done, or we'll do it year to year if we have to. But there's no way I'm letting somebody else influence. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the non-exclusive tag, Eric, and a team negotiating with Lamar to a contract that the Ravens choose not to match, and then they can either accept the 2 first-round picks or trade for whatever they negotiate. That's not the only way he can be traded. They can do an exclusive franchise tag, more expensive exclusive franchise tag, and still, just like the Texans did with Deshaun Watson, say, you know what, we give you permission to talk to these teams because we've already worked out draft compensation for them. So if they have to go their separate ways, they can still do it with the exclusive franchise tag, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, I'll have to double check on that, but I believe that is the case, right? In normal circumstances, the exclusive tag means he's ours, we've got him, we decide what we're going to do with him. You pay a little bit more, as you pointed out, but to have that total control, that's where your money goes. If you do the non-exclusive tag, he's technically still a free agent, although under control by you have what I think 7 days to match or something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's really the situation. How do they play this is going to be fascinating. And look, they've left the door open for the possibility of a trade, but I think it's clear that their preference is, at least to keep him for the 1 year possibility. And I mean, that really is where we're at right now.
So, I'm sorry, Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to just say, I'm just curious, outside of Lamar, who else are you paying close attention to, now that today's the first day, that teams can franchise tag their players? Who are you paying close attention to? Obviously, Lamar is the big one, but who else?
Right. Yeah, I think some of the other ones that are going to be interesting would be, do the Chiefs consider tagging Orlando Brown? They made a trade with the Ravens to get him. The results, I think, were obviously positive in the sense that they won a Super Bowl with him, but some people questioning whether, he's worth sort of franchise money at that spot, or maybe you let somebody else. Obviously you just stay on the Ravens too with blanking Marcus Peters, the corner. Can't tag 2 players, so he's going to be one that possibly slips through. And Jesse Bates, I don't think will get the tag in Cincinnati. I don't know that for a fact, and this is just my speculation, but a player who very quietly, I think, held a big value to Lou Anarumo's defense, and could end up playing center field for somebody else next year. And what is the effect of a team that has made 2 deep runs in the playoffs the last 2 years that put more of the onus on guys like Joe Burrow, et cetera. So those are a couple names that I'll definitely be focused in on.
Hey, one more thing before we get you out of here. Speaking of the Chiefs, obviously history was made at the Super Bowl with 2 black quarterbacks facing off for the first time.
Yeah, I can hear you.
History was made at the Super Bowl with 2 black quarterbacks facing off for the first time. And we witnessed in the last 2 days or so a great moment in black history that I want to draw everybody's attention to when it comes to black quarterbacks. It is silly season, as you know, as the draft expert that you are. There was a report that the Cowboys are intrigued by C.J. Stroud. Now, here's the great moment in black history. What is the biggest knock on C.J. Stroud that for many he put to rest in the semifinal game against Georgia? And that is Is he athletic enough?
Right.
I was like, wait a second. That was like, they're asking if the brother can run.
Yeah.
I mean, we have come a long way. Is he athletic enough? Does he have the improvisational skills? But all jokes aside, I was talking to somebody, because Justin Fields, when he was at Ohio State, Justin Fields did not show himself to be anywhere near the runner that he is for the Chicago Bears when he was in college. I didn't know he had it like that. CJ Stroud, people wonder if he's just a pocket passer, if he can improvise, if he can play off schedule, yada, yada, yada. If Fields had played the way he plays now at Ohio State, or if Stroud had displayed the athleticism that I'm told that he does have in his repertoire at Ohio State, it'd be held against him. So I just had to get that off my chest. Having said that, this Cowboys thing is complete and utter BS, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they can look at him and say there's something really interesting there, and they'd be right. And you're right. It is funny that we're at this point now where a quarterback like Stroud, we can start questioning his athleticism. His first touch at Ohio State, I think, was a 48-yard touchdown run. I realized he wasn't asked to do that. I know that Ohio State fans were begging, pleading, screaming, crying, please unleash this guy. Let him get outside the pocket. And then finally in that game, they did that. And just to back up your point, one little nugget there. Justin Fields, I think, had 2 100-yard rushing games at Ohio State. So more prolific than Stroud was, but as you pointed, nowhere close to the usage that he's been asked to perform with the Bears. So, yeah, this is Ryan Day's offense. There were receivers streaking open down the field. Why wouldn't you throw it to him? Different situation in the NFL. CJ will be fine in the athletic department, whether it's Dallas, Indy, Carolina, anywhere else. I think he's going to be all right.
Listen, I know people down on Dak, but I can't imagine a world in which the Cowboys eat whatever they got to eat to move on from Dak and move up to get CJ Stroud. But it's that time of year, right? It's all fun.
That's right.
Tabloid conjecture. We appreciate you, Ed. Eric, thank you so much, man. Keep up the great work at NFL Media, and we'll talk to you soon. Eric Edholm, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Natalie, I'm stealing your deleted photos line. Just wanted to let you know that. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
See you guys.
You told me the other night you wanted the Brooklyn Brigade to be louder. They were loud tonight. You heard Brooklyn Bridges throughout Barclays Center. How special is it to get a win in front of these Brooklyn Nets fans before the All-Star break?
It's dope, man. I was saying all in the locker room, I want to get a win so I can enjoy this little week. So I appreciate you guys, man. Wouldn't be possible without y'all.
So good to see our dear friend Meghan Triplett of the Yes Network. She covers all things Brooklyn Nets. And Meghan, honestly, for once, I'm going to make it about me. I just really want to see you, and I want to talk to you because I want to talk about the Nets in a non-dramatic, non-dysfunctional tone and tenor. Because it's like everybody, including my brother from another, Michael Holley, everybody get their jokes off at the expense of the Brooklyn Nets and how it all fell apart. But there's a lot of smiles around this franchise, especially today, now that Jacques Vaughn has been signed to a contract extension. Take us inside that decision on the part of the organization, but also just the mood around the Nets that those who shall not be named have moved on, and these young guys are doing their thing.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Michael. I definitely appreciate you doing that for me. You know, it's the break, and so I'm back home with my family, and everyone wants to talk about drama this, soap opera this, but it really is a good day today because, as you mentioned, Jacques Vaughn signed that extension, and all credit goes to Jacques. When you think about everything that he has had to go through these last couple of months and what he has done with this group, and you can rewind all the way back to the beginning of the season and then to, Steve Nash being let go and then Jacques Vaughn having to step in and being the acting head coach and what he's able to do during in that stretch and bringing the guys together. And now he's in this new era, this new chapter. And no matter who is on this roster, I have to say Jacques Vaughn, when he steps in, he just has this presence about him. And it's the same thing that Sean Marks said in that press release was just that his character, the guys believe in him, you trust him, he represents the borough very well. He played for the New Jersey Nets. He's spent 7 years here with the Brooklyn Nets. And so he knows this team, he knows this organization, he knows the culture, and he knows these guys, and everyone's kind of bought in, and he's had to go through so much. And he's been the guy to kind of like lead them out of all of the drama, as you call it.
Yeah, I really like this decision, Meghan. I mean, Jock has been waiting his turn for, it feels like, so long. And I'm happy that they made this decision. You know, he's spoken a lot about this being the new era, and these players now, they want to learn. And, you know, when I heard that, I agreed with him, but I was just wondering, do you think at all when he's saying like they want to learn, they want to be coached, like that sort of a thing, is that just about the new players now, or is that kind of like a statement on the switching of errors, you know, because before they brought in, not to stick too much on who has left, but they brought in the past guys, and they had much more input, I think, in decisions. But these are younger players, you know, they're looking to be groomed, and so they want to be coached. And do you think like that's him kind of saying like, yes, I'm here to do that and bring this into the next era, or was it just, I was just wondering if there was anything behind his comments when he said that.
I think there's a lot behind that comment of this is a new era, because you have to think he has to say that because for the Brooklyn Nets fans, they've gone through a lot too. You've been cheering on a different group, and you know every single season someone has left, and this year it's different. And so the expectations, they're still the same of we believe that we can make it into the playoffs, but it is changed a little bit. The way that they're going to play is going to be different. That's when he says the new era of the game. And when he said that these guys are ready to be coached, I think that is every single player. I think we kind of forget there's only 4 new guys. There's only 4 new players. And there's so many players who have spent time with Jock Bond, who know Jock Bond. Think about Joe Harris, who spent many, many seasons under Jock Bond, and whether he was an assistant or acting interim, now he's head coach. These guys all do really, really want to be coached, and they love the game of basketball. You've seen Cam Thomas step in, and when his number is called, he has delivered. And Royce O'Neal, this is his first season, but he's had to go through different stretches of playing minutes. And Nick Claxton has been that guy, that big, who, whether he's the defensive guy, now people are saying, could he be the defensive player of the year? He is that rim protector. All these guys want to be coached, and they want to get better. And every single day, yes, they know all the outside noise has been there, but it's proven on the court. When they say step out there, they want to put the best product out there on the court. And so I do think it's a little bit of a new era, but it's also the same guys who it shows you the character of every single player, every single coach, every single person within that organization.
So what's the direction now? They tried the super team thing. We know how that played out. Houston's got their picks, but obviously, you know, they got some stuff back, some pieces back from Phoenix and Dallas and so on and so forth. I read where forgot which team it was that was willing to give up like 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Like, are they
the Grizzlies?
Memphis.
Was it the Grizzlies? Oh, yeah. There you go. Right in your backyard. You could break news on two teams. But I guess, but do they have a plan, or is it just, hey, let's just get to the playoffs this year and see what happens? At 34-24 and currently in 5th. So do they have a plan for the long term yet, or are they still kind of, you know, I guess, decompressing from the failed super team era?
I think we're still processing how everything played out, and we're still going. And right now, what's at front is this season. We're still thinking about what this season looks like. And the first step was we're going to tell the fans out there that Jock Bond's going to be our guy. He's going to be the coach that's going to lead the way and lead this charge. And then you look at who you have on your group and these developing players like Cam Thomas. And then you have Mikal Bridges. You brought Spencer Dinwiddie back, and who has been the vocal leader within this locker room. And you have, you know, as I mentioned, Nick Claxton. I think that they're looking at this season, but they're looking at the season ahead. And that's how like the new era comes about. I think we're still going to figure out what this does look like. Sean Marks had a really good quote saying that we're not retooling anything. We're just like rearranging some things. The expectations are still there. And I do think this organization is going to take a deep dive inside and talk about, okay, where did we get things wrong? How do we move forward? I still think they're going to look at that as a whole internally, and we're going to figure it out as we move forward. I feel good about everything just because of how the players have constantly been able to step in, and how Jock Bond and Sean Marks have had to figure out and like been those vocal leaders to figure out where does this go from here? I still think we're still trying to figure out when it looks at like ahead of the future, like 2 or 3 seasons down. But for right now, they're looking at what we have left. This next couple of stretches of game from All-Star break, can we make it into the playoffs with this group? And we'll see where it goes after that.
Yeah, I love this for Brooklyn, like the borough, being a New Yorker and watching this. It feels a little bit like history's repeating itself, because there was that Kenny Atkinson era of the Nets with like D'Angelo Russell, and they were like a fun young team. And now you see this team, and I got to tell you, because I'm a Warriors fan, I was not a fan of Mikal Bridges on the Suns, and I just think he's so much more likable now that he's a Net. And I love the name Brooklyn Bridges, so dope. And so he just looks like he's having a good time. Cam looks like he's having a good time. They're just like they look like they can be like a fun young team. And I think growing that and building that in a borough like Brooklyn could be so good for the fans' connection to this team. And I want to know what your thoughts would be on that in terms of them just rebuilding and growing versus continuing to go for the super team.
It's going to be different, as you mentioned. I think as you mentioned, you're from New York area, and like, you know, I'm new to the area and talking to a lot of Brooklyn Nets fans. They've gone through a lot. It's going to look different. The one good thing about Mikal Bridges, and we know that he's a guy that will always step out on the court. He's always available, which is the best thing ever, that he's always available. That's the best availability to have. But he's also from the Philadelphia area, not too far from New York City. He mentioned about how he's always wanted to live in the city, and now is his opportunity. He's got a lot of family and friends in the area. And when you think about even bringing Spencer Dinwiddie, who spent 5 years with Brooklyn, he even mentioned that his son was raised here, and it was always an organization and a place that he always thought about maybe potentially coming back to. And so you're bringing these guys who have some history within the organization, within the city, within the area. And so as you start this new era, it is exciting. And I understand how people can't forget. I think the grieving process, you have to give people time to grieve. We all need time to grieve over it. And this is my first season, so I'm not all the way into like how a lot of people are 3 years deep and they've gone through so much and so much turmoil and so many ups and downs. Give it time to grieve. But what you saw from those last couple of games before the All-Star break with these guys and that excitement, as you mentioned, Nat, you do feel it. You do feel it in the locker room, and you see this this young youthfulness, but it's also just excitement to play the game of basketball. They really want to make it about basketball. You want to get back to playing basketball and making it fun. And when you have guys like Mikal and Cam who already have that core, they're twins. They call themselves twins. They do everything together. They have that history. Spencer and Dorian Finney-Smith played together in Dallas. They have a history of Brooklyn. Everyone knows Spencer Dinwiddie's son. When he walks around the court, everyone's like, hey, like you see that. And I do think it's going to take time, but it is exciting. I just think give it a moment, give it a chance. It's going to be a different type of game of basketball, because you don't have Kevin Durant, you don't have Kyrie Irving, but you have a bunch of wing players. They have the length. It's going to be a defensive-oriented team. Yeah. And now you're going to see all those shooters, whether, Steph Curry, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal. Cam Thomas has been that guy. He does smile. He does have fun. I'm telling you, he does do that. You're going to see that young. And so can they figure it out? Give it a couple more games for Jock Bond to figure out how to kind of work it within the system and how the pieces will kind of play out when it comes to the rotation, to the starting group. And you still have Ben Simmons, too, which I have not mentioned as well. His defensive, and they got to figure out that flow and find that chemistry. So it's all there. Nat, you got to come to a game.
I will.
Come on to Brooklyn. Michael, you too. I do think it's going to be different, but I'm ready to get past this break and now see the product on the court.
And you mentioned they're going for it. So they're trying to still make the post. Okay.
They believe. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson said it after the last game. He was like, he told me he really feels the energy in this group. And he said, I really do think that this is a group that can still win and can still make the playoffs. I think all that outside noise, these guys are not listening to. They understand that Kevin Durant, when you trade for a player of his caliber, we understand all that. We understand what they lost. But when you get a good group together and you have good coaches centered around them, they believe that they still got it.
So I was going to ask you, because it's a hell of a first year. I mean, for you. So, okay, maybe that answers my question. I was going to say, Meghan, how would you describe, it ain't even over yet, how would you describe your first season on the sidelines with the Yes Network for the Brooklyn Nets? Maybe that facial expression just now said it all. I don't, because I'm sure you got a book somewhere in you about all the things you've seen and heard along the way.
I should write a book for this to be like, yes, Network has been amazing. The organization has been amazing. Yes, I've gone through a lot. There was no like tiptoe into the job in itself, but it's a good uncomfortable. I think that like where I'm supposed to be is where I'm supposed to be. And I do think I've learned a lot from this position. I've learned a lot from this team. I learned a lot from the players. You know, Kyrie Irving was always welcoming. It was great to cover him. It was great to cover Kevin Durant. And even seeing the new guys, Mikal Bridges, it feels as if I've had 2 seasons combined within one, honestly. Yeah. But I do think that I was meant to be here, whether that's to be the smile and to be optimistic all the time for the fans. I do believe in that group. You know, I believe that the energy that is exuded out, I know that a lot of people don't get to see a lot behind the scenes, but there is so much love and fun and energy coming from that locker room, honestly, regardless of who's in it. We've had so many guys in and out, but regardless of who's in it, there's been so much there. And so I'm like, look, it's a good uncomfortable. Sometimes you've got to be uncomfortable a little bit to kind of like make sure you're still alive. Like, okay, I still got it. I can do this. Okay.
That's real talk. Hey, last thing, and this is probably a whole other conversation, but Nat and I have had quite a few conversations about your former team. I mean, I know this is your team, but the former team you used to cover, and that's the Grizzlies. What's your quick read on them? And Ja in particular. It's been, shall we say, an eventful season on and off the court for that franchise. What's your read on the Grizzlies?
I think this Grizzlies team is still constantly growing. I think what you're seeing is that them taking it to that next step. And that next step, when you take it to the next step, a lot of trials and tribulations come there. And you're going to get a lot of hate, and you're going to have to learn how to navigate that. And I think that's what we're seeing, but that shows me that they have it. I do think that when a lot of attention comes at you, a lot of negativity comes at you, that's when you know that you're right on the cusp. Because you guys know, I don't cover the Grizzlies, but I'm still a fan of the Grizzlies. That's home. So I still believe in this group. Taylor Jenkins is doing great. Jaren Jackson Jr., watch out for this group. I'm telling you.
I need for you two to be together watching a Warriors-Grizzly game. I would watch y'all watch that game. Brooklyn Nets fans, this segment was for you, wherever you are.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.